Okay, everybody, you're in for such a treat because I have Carolyn Herfurth with us, and I've known her for years. She's an amazing businesswoman, and being in business for so many years, she's seen the good, the bad, the ugly. Well, of course, the show is all about betrayal, but she's going to be talking about betrayal in business and how we betray ourselves. So welcome, Carolyn.
Happy to be here.
Excited to have you. So, you're so great at just helping women. I think for the most part, you work with women grow and scale and launch their businesses and all of that. But there's that other piece to it, and that's the betrayal piece. Mm-hmm. How a betrayal may affect how we show up in business, how we betray ourselves in our business, all of that. So, what's been your experience, and where do you see it?
I've seen it in a couple of places that are very obvious to me. One was not so obvious, and it made business really, really hard. I've been in business almost 18 years. And up until about 3 years ago, I didn't really realize where one of the betrayals hid because it was so baked in to how we do business. And so that is just the way our economy is set up. It was created by men for men. And so I'm not man bashing at all. Mm-hmm. It's just that we're trying to do business in an XY economy, and the rules and the game works great and very naturally for men, but for women it may not. So I can give you a couple of examples.
Yes, definitely.
I call it the XY economy for obvious reasons.
I wrote that down. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, great. The XY economy pretty much tells us what to think. There's a lot of cultivation of self-doubt and shame, and that shows up requiring you to surrender your own judgment to that of others. So, do it this way. And there's a lot of this is how it's done, and don't question it. This is how it works. This is how you make money. This is how you do this in business. This is how you do that. And doesn't create a lot of room for doubting it, questioning it, challenging it.
And before you even go on, I have to say, I remember meeting you years ago, and that was something I was so impressed with, because back in the early days of me launching my business, I've been in business since 1991, but then I went through that period of, they must know better, and they must know better, and they must know better. And I went through so many mastermind experiences and coaches and assuming they had to know better. And I remember you saying back then, you have to do what's best for you and what works best for your business. And that was like a foreign thing, a foreign idea to me at the time.
Oh, I love that. I love that callback. That's amazing. I think I always kind of felt that. I shouldn't say always, but I obviously we've known each other for several years, but it took me a long time to realize how systemic it was and how baked in all of that stuff is. So it's really interesting. And there is and women can also one of the other things I think about in terms of the XY economy is this bro marketing, where it's my way or the highway, kind of the I know better than you type of thing. But women can be bro marketers. Sometimes they have lipstick and, beautiful sequin dresses and, so it's just because I call it the XY economy doesn't mean some women have figured out how to do it. But for the most part, most of the people who I work with don't fall into that category of just, this is how, Debbie, this is how you need to do your business, or this is how you need to do your life. It's more of a collaboration, a co-creation.
And give us an example of bro marketing. And I'm laughing because it wasn't even that long ago. I did a webinar, and it's so funny. And here's what happened. I did a webinar according to what I thought I should do. And I did it, and it didn't feel right. And because it wasn't. And I'll never forget how my assistant, I remember saying, hey, do me a favor. And could you just watch this? Tell me what you think. And she's like, this doesn't even sound like you. And I just said, you know what? I had a feeling. Thank you for confirming that. And I just spoke from the heart, totally redid it. And it was like a bazillion times better. So it's amazing how I continually catch myself doing it. But give us some examples of this bro marketing, where you see it, what it looks like.
That's exactly. I'm as we're talking, I'm trying to find this thing I call a wiki bro, and it's a bro dictionary. That's what it is.
Oh, wow.
I'll make sure you get the link in case
Okay.
you want to use it in show notes. But it is the type of bro business behavior that is like so crazy. So I 100% have fallen into that same trap. So I just want to validate what you just said, because we're so indoctrinated or like it's just so part of us until you step back and just go, wow. Or until someone says, Debbie, what in the hell are you thinking? That's so not you. We don't necessarily see it. And so I talk about bro marketing as any type of behavior that feels manipulative. So a specific example is I went through a launch. It was how to do a 6-figure launch type of thing. This was 8-9 years ago. And as I went through, and I had made the decision I was going to follow every step in the book, everything. I was going to follow it all. And I did. And every time the instruction said, now write an email about this and do this, I cringed. Like a little bit of me just died inside. And I was just like, oh, I don't think my people are set up for that. But I'm like, nope, she says this is what I need to do. I went ahead. I sent the 18 emails required for the launch. My open rate during that process went down to half.
And just so everybody understands, open rate means the amount of people.
Yes.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily, it may or may not,
business, yes.
Not everybody is in their own business. But an open rate means, let's say you send out, emails to your entire people who have subscribed to your, let's say, newsletter or whatever. How many, what's the percentage of people that open that?
Right.
That's what a typical, open rate would be.
Yeah. So people just quit reading my stuff because they're like, this is not who you are. So I was trying to show up as someone who was not authentic to myself. And so to me, that's an example of trying to use bro marketing when that's not who I am. It's the pushy, super ambitious, conquering, bro driving Teslas type of.
And it's interesting because you said she, so it was a woman. It sounds like who was the one who was doing this. So I guess it would throw you off even more because you would, I guess, assume, well, this person is speaking my language in the way that it needs to be heard, and that wasn't the case.
And it's so I feel like in that case, the betrayal came from two places. And one is just feeling like, oh my gosh, there's just this system of bro tactics and strategies that we've all been like, it's like seeing air. It's just like, you don't see it. You don't know it's there, but it's there, right? So there's that. And then the other betrayal was me betraying myself because I knew it didn't feel right. And I did it anyway. And
I want you to dive into that, but also, and I get that because there's so much passion around what you're doing. You can help women create these amazing businesses, just like I know I can help someone heal from betrayal. So the passion is there, and then you see people with these incredible results. And so I know I could speak for myself. I'm so driven by, well, I want to reach that many people, but the way we go about it has to be so much different.
Yeah. And the XY, this XY economy, this machine basically says, in order to reach the most number of people, in order to get them as clients, in order to do this is how you must do it. But that's where we don't have to do it that way but it takes a very self-aware, which I can't say I've always been, and still have my days where I'm not, but you need to really tap into the feeling that comes with, and say, why does this feel so wrong to send the 13th email in this campaign? Why does that feel so wrong? Why does it feel wrong to do, communicate something in this way? And so does that answer your question about a specific example?
It definitely does, because I think it's in that awareness that we can say, well, does this feel right? I mean, even just that questioning, does this feel right? Or am I just doing this because I think I should? Already the should, we know we're going to get ourselves into trouble if we're doing something because of, I think I should. And it's really, I think that's really key, checking in to question, does this feel right? And if I were on, and I know what helps me now when I'm aware of it, and like you, I don't always catch it, but when I imagine myself on the receiving end, would I want to read something like this? Would I want to watch something like this? Would I want to hear something like this? And how would I interpret that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think where I would always get confused was thinking, well, it doesn't feel right, but I think it's just because it's a new behavior for me. And so I'll get used to it. And so there's always that distinction. And I work primarily with private clients. I used to run group programs and things like that in my business. But in working with private clients, one of the reasons I love doing that is because I can find out in real time by looking at them on Zoom or in person, whether the idea, the strategy, the tactic, the thing I'm suggesting that they do, I can see immediately what their energy is around it. So I can instantly, like, you see when they get excited, like, oh my God, I can totally do it. Or the other one, like, you know what, I think I can do, like, there's the possibility look. And then there's the, you know what, I feel like I would be eating, a ball of fire if I had to do that.
Yeah. You brought up something really, really important, because so often change happens in the unfamiliar, and the unfamiliar is good. But what you're saying here is sometimes it's in that discomfort. It's not that it's good. It's that it's a real direct message to us. No, no, no. You're headed down something that is so incongruent to who you are.
Right. Yeah,
And that's
word.
right.
Yeah.
And that's how we know. And I always explain this idea of being congruent. It's when your thoughts, your actions, your really your whole way is all aligned. And when something is not, and when something is out of a line, you're just not congruent. You're not in flow. It just doesn't seem to feel or flow the way that it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really important to distinguish, though, because sometimes it's that unfamiliar that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But in this case, that unfamiliar, question it.
Yeah, exactly. Just another example of that, I'm working with a client right now. She's a very, very gifted copywriter. So she writes copy for her clients for their launches. And she's like, I just don't want to write copy right now. I'd rather consult or coach people through how to do their own, but make sure that they know what the important aspects are of that. And she's never really had to sell her services, because people have always been like, okay, you're hired. And this is kind of a new thing for her. And I can tell when we do our Zoom calls, you can just see, she's like, I haven't sold before, and I'm a little scared, but I'm a little excited, because if I can master this and sell these things, I think it's really going to be game changing for me. So there is having an open mind, and really but checking in, acknowledging both sides of it.
So give us then, if you could, just based on the the clients you've worked with, what's an example of someone is they're trying to be okay with something that's uncomfortable and it's not a fit for them, and something that is very uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar, but is actually like the perfect place they need to go next.
Yeah.
Well, what does it feel like? Give us the whole picture.
Okay. So I'm typically not going to have a client who's doing something that feels super incongruent, because I would never ask them to do it. So usually it comes from it's something they've done before they got to me, where they followed a program, much like I did, where they followed this step by step. This is exactly how you build your community. This is how you, try to nurture people in your community. But then it's it, or how to do Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are all these kind of step-by-step blueprints, as we call them in our world, that people are to follow. And they're like, oh, I'm not sure. And what happens is they do it like I've done 100 times before I finally said, Carolyn, why are you doing this? And they start to feel like a failure. Like, what is wrong with me? This worked for these other people who have been held up as examples of success, who have done this. But that's like the 3% of people who it worked for, and it didn't work for me. So what's wrong with me? And that really starts to create so much self-doubt and disempowerment. And like, it's really damaging. And it's also expensive. Like a lot of people are like, well, I can only afford this $1,000 course to learn how to do this. I can't afford $5,000 or $10,000 for someone to do it. But they're losing out on opportunity because the $1,000 thing didn't work. So, the money they thought they would make from doing this didn't get made. And if they had invested $5,000 or $10,000 for someone to really walk them through and find a way that really works for them, they would have gotten it. So it's just, I don't know, I'm probably getting too businessy, but.
No, but I totally get it. And just for everybody who's watching and listening to this, I mean, I am the classic example of someone who has done just that so many times. But the gift is it's made me just the most incredible mentor because I've made every mistake and learned the hard way. So, you talk about like the mastermind program or the coach or the whatever, and I've worked with them. I mean, my goal after a while was, okay, if you extract one thing you can use and learn and take with you, that's great. But that's a really expensive way to learn powerful business concepts. But so, and that's what we do. And it's like when we're in any unfamiliar territory, I know with me, I just assume someone else knows better because they've been doing it. They must know better than me.
Yeah.
But we have to really take that time to say, okay, even though they've done it differently, they have a different business, they have a different intention, they have a different everything. So I have to take the idea of how would my people and want to receive something, and according to who I am, my personality, what works best for me, how do I convey that?
Yeah.
So when someone gets that message from you, what's the change? What's the difference? How does it show up?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it shows up first. I mean, typically that they get clients who say yes to them through how they end up doing their marketing or having their sales conversations or the way they create an offer and how it's priced. Like everything just feels easy instead of heavy. So I'll give you an example. I had a client a few months ago who had a multiple six-figure business, and she just got to a point where she's like, I've tried everything. I am trying to figure out, like, she has a success, like a multiple six-figure business isn't bad, right? And she's like, I've tried everything, and right now I'm not feeling motivated. I know I need to create something new, and I need to replace this much revenue for it to be worth my while. And so she hired me to help her figure out what is that new thing that you can offer, and how do we make it check all the boxes in terms of only wanting to work 3 days a week, making generating multiple six figures a year, like a lot of these other things. And so I helped her create this offer that's amazing. And I had to teach her how to sell because she had never had a sales conversation before, which is very common among many of my clients. And so in her case, she's like, okay, I'll try it. I helped her craft the questions to ask that were very authentic and not disingenuous. Like nothing can be manipulative. It has to be super clear. And she called me after her first 3 conversations. She's like, 3 people bought from me. This is so easy. Like it's so she went from not feeling motivated in her business to being super excited about an offer and realizing that it's not that hard to have a sales conversation. Just be a human.
And it's so funny you say that because I remember being so surprised that it could be easy. It went against anything I had ever known because and then you have to also take a look at what you grew up with, all of those, all of that old programming, that it's hard and it's a struggle and all of that stuff. So, that's what I knew. So for something to just flow out of me, for my best work to be when I'm in flow and it doesn't feel like work at all, was such a head thing to work through, and because when you think it just has to be such a struggle, and it doesn't, and it really doesn't when you're aligned, when you're speaking the way you're supposed to be speaking, it just kind of works. So what are some other ways that you find women kind of betraying themselves in business? Give us some examples.
So, some of it is in the way they market or the way they network. So I know, I'll use an example of myself. I know I love doing things in real life. I host people on my patio, lunches, happy hours, parties. I love, love, love hosting because that's a way to deeply connect with people. And I wasn't doing that. I mean, I can't do it now because of, we've got some social distancing issues to deal with, but I wasn't doing it because I was so focused on writing emails and articles and blogs and doing all this stuff on social media, but I was not showing up as the person who sits out on my patio and hosts a half a dozen women for blackberry jalapeno margaritas. Like, I'm so much more real. And so I was trying to be this online person who I'm not. Like, I just wasn't making the translation. So to me, that's a betrayal. Another is I think a lot of betrayal is people coming up with excuses not to invest in themselves. I can't afford it. It's too much. I think it's usually often bullshit. And it's because there's a lack of self-worth. I'm not worth it. What if I screw it up? Like, that's what's really going on. When someone says, oh, I can't afford it, I'm not sure if I have the money. Exactly. It like, what I find they're often saying is, I'm probably not going to follow through. I'm not sure, like, if I become successful, what's that going to say about me? How is my family or my friends going to perceive me? And so they continue to play small and betray themselves using money as an excuse often. So that's another betrayal.
I love that you brought that up. And what I see too is, because in the world of betrayal, trust is huge. We don't trust the person who betrayed us. We don't trust ourselves. And when it comes to investing in yourself to heal from this once and for all, it's, I don't trust myself that I'm able to do this, that I'm able to do the work. It's so true. How do you handle that when you come across that?
It's a good question. That would be a really, really long answer, but the short answer is, I know my value. I know who my people are. I know what I do for them. I have no doubt when I'm talking to the right person that I can help them. And I know how I can help them. I know how I can benefit them. So what happens, because I've been doing this for so long, almost 18 years, as a self-employed business owner, I just know what questions to ask. So I don't say, Debbie, the reason you need to buy from me is because blah, 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 blah. Like, no, I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to find out like what matters to you and reveal what's going to happen. Like, it's all about allowing you to communicate and articulate what's working, what's not, what your goals are, what your fears are, all that. And because I've been doing it so long, it's not like I have a list of questions or a checklist or anything like that. It's truly through conversation. And I think women make great salespeople, because if you just tap into your intuition, like you said, being in flow, you don't need a list of things. You need to know your value. And I think that's another thing, that way that women betray themselves, is not taking the time to really understand what value they do deliver. Because every single one of us does, women and men. I shouldn't just keep it to women, but I mean, we all have value, but we sometimes we stop short of getting really clear about what people value when they work with us, when they hire us, when they engage with us.
I love that you're bringing this up because it's really true. It starts with our own value, because if we don't value ourselves and then someone says no, the only option is to take it personally and think, well, I must not be good enough, valuable enough, period.
Yeah.
And it's when we understand our value, and then we can at least open the door to those kind of conversations. Now, I know with me, here's what happens. I get so invested in their healing that I can't take it. And I know it's why I'm the worst salesperson ever, because I know what's waiting for them when they say yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that discomfort of, letting them understand that enough. I just want to take their hand and just pull them to that place. But I know it's important for them to understand I'm really in a bad place now, and this may actually be something that I can use.
Yeah.
But I see the pain and I can't take it.
It's hard. You want to slap a Band-Aid on it in some cases. And when we do that, then we're not really healing the full betrayal in your case, because it's going to pop back, the wound is going to open again in some way, shape, or form. And so I used to do that when I first started my business, my coaching business. I've been in business a long time, but when I first started my coaching business about, 10 or 15 years ago, I'd want to fix it right there in the initial conversation of talking to someone. Oh, well, so you're having problems dealing with, the way people say they can't afford to hire you or do this with you. Well, here's all you need to do. And then I'd send them on their way. And then it never really worked because the full transformation didn't happen. And so I've just realized, and I'm sure you have too, that we can't put Band-Aids on stuff because it actually is more of a disservice than a service.
Absolutely. And I remember when I finally realized that that's what I was doing, making that decision that I would rather not work with someone at all than have them work for a really short time and not have them go through that process of full transformation. Because when you don't go through that full process, you could slip back. Mm-hmm. When you've become that new version of you, there's no going back because that old you doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And it's just worth going to that new space. So what do you want to make sure as we wrap up, women want to know so they understand, am I betraying myself in my business? Am I speaking a language that is not my language to speak? What do you want them to understand?
Okay. Well, because I work with entrepreneurs, I'm going to put in the context of the entrepreneur's evolution, because we all go through cycles and patterns in life and in business. And so if you're going through a crappy phase of your business, and you might think, oh my God, this is going to last forever. I'm such a loser, blah, it's just part of a cycle. It's like a rite of passage to get to the next level. And so the entrepreneur's evolution, the way I explain it is, it's really just a measure of where our morale is and what the results are in our business and how they relate to each other at any given time. So if you're in business or even just in life, when you start something new, your morale is high, you're excited, but you may not be getting the results. It doesn't even matter if you're learning how to play mahjong or something like that. You might be like, how come I keep losing? In business, it's how come nobody's buying from me? And you have to know that as we go through these different phases, that it's just part of the cycle. And the more aware you can become of which growth phase you're in, and just knowing that you'll get through it, but you have to get clear about what is going to get you through it. Lying on the sofa and eating a bag of Cheetos might be okay for 5 minutes, but then what are you going to do to get off what's going to pull you out of it and what's going to pull you through it? So I think it's just incredibly important to have that level of self-awareness. And David R. Hawkins talks about this in Power versus Force. I just love his stuff. It's so good. The lowest like if you feel ashamed, just know that you're not coming from a place of power. If you feel ashamed about something.
That's like level, is it 20? 20 is shame or 40 is shame. It's like the lowest of the, when it talks about that frequency scale.
It's a scale of 1 to 700 or 0 to 700. Well, probably 20 to 700. And shame is the lowest on that energetic, emotional scale. And so I think if you have feelings like anger, shame, guilt, those are not empowering things. And so look at what's going on around you. So as I look at it, as it relates to business, and what's driving my shame? Is it because I don't have enough revenues coming in? Okay, well, why is that? Is it because I'm not communicating with people? Is it because I'm afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody or reach out to somebody and message them on social media? Like, why? What's causing it? And if you can't figure it out for yourself, that's okay. We can't always see ourselves through our own eyes. And this is when you need a coach, a life coach, a business coach, a Debi coach. Like, you have to figure this out, because it's what we're not always going to be able to figure everything out ourselves. We're just not. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay. I mean, my clients are 6 and 7-figure business women. They're really smart. They've built nice businesses, but they're coming to me because they're like, well, I can't figure it all out. I need a thought partner. And if you can look at a coach as a thought partner, someone who's going to ask insightful questions and help you get to seeing where your blocks are and where you're getting caught up and kind of like not going through the evolution, but staying stuck in one little spot. I just think that's incredibly important. So that's my advice.
Yeah, amazing. Any good coach has a coach, and it's people like Carolyn who can actually, help you see the blocks, what you're not seeing, bounce ideas off of, and it's just wonderful. Where do we go to learn more about you?
My website is carolynherfurth.com, and Carolyn is with a Y, and Herfurth is not always easy. I'm assuming it'll be in show notes, but
it absolutely will.
CarolynHerfurth. And that I go by everything: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everything is Carolyn Herfurth. So you go to my website or any social media platform and just look up Carolyn Herfurth, and you'll find me there.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom and your time. And anybody who's considering a business, is an entrepreneur, Carolyn absolutely is definitely worth checking out. Her information is wonderful. I mean, think about it. I remembered something you said, however many years ago that was. It was profound.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
And you know what? Thank you for the work you're doing here. This is really remarkable. I've enjoyed listening to your podcast and connecting with you in this way. So keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.